Welcome back to Open Line and our lively conversation about transit in Nashville and really the surrounding areas too, because it affects all of us in Middle Tennessee. We're going to get right back to the lines. We have Joe waiting ever so patiently. Joe, thank you for being with us. Go ahead with your comment or question. You're going to have to turn down that TV, Joe.
I'm here.
There you go. Huh? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yep. I wanted to say that there's a whole lot of different reasons for the issues with the people coming in. I mean, obviously we have a lot of growth, and they're building a lot of housing, and they're still not really accomplishing the mission on, you know, with the roads and everything. I think the people in the inner city of Nashville, I live outside the city. I live in Hermitage, so I'm outside the city. And I guess my concern being outside the city is that we can't even get in there in the morning. It's like a parking lot on I-40 trying to get from Hermitage even into Nashville.
Yeah.
What would help, and I've seen it, like if we expand the bus program, if we would concentrate on having more buses in the city to move people around, and then maybe expand so they just stay in the city. They don't come out here to Hermitage. They stay in the city and move people around, and then have a bus system that actually runs outside of Nashville that can move them. And also, another thing is that they don't charge for parking at the train stations. And that's bizarre to me because there's a lot of people that car hop and they park there for free, and I'm wondering why we don't generate any revenue from those parking spaces. It's like we could make so much money off of that property, but we don't want to. Like, why aren't we doing that? Why are we just letting people park at the train stations for free instead of charging and maybe increasing the revenue to expand the rail? And I'd like to hear the comments on that. Thank you.
Okay, anybody want to jump in on that one?
I think his first question was probably getting at you know, sort of how regional bus systems work with more local bus systems. Obviously, Nashville is unique in that we're a city-county consolidated government, and so our WeGo transit system actually serves all of Davidson County, and they're pretty consolidated with the RTA, which serves the regional routes as well. So again, I think to what Clifton said, you know, making sure that we're doing those analyses every 4 to 5 years, making sure that they're still going where they need to go, and then that we're making the investments that we know work, which is 10 to 15 minute frequency, all day service, looking at those key crosstown connections. Those are the biggest investments that we need to be making in our bus system so that people really can rely on it. The second important piece, which I think we've all talked about, is that convenience and speed are really important aspects of it. Yes. And transit needs to have its own dedicated lane to travel in on its high frequency route, on the most congested routes, because then it'll be faster to ride.
Yes, another incentive to ride. Nobody wants to just get on a bus and sit in the same traffic that your car would be sitting in.
Right. And nobody wants to be driving in a car and see the bus or train, speeding past them.
Yeah.
That's a huge incentive to change your behavior.
That's a big incentive.
Big incentive.
When we talk about big incentives, though, some of these big incentives come with big price tags. And I don't remember who was mentioning it, but looking at other cities for what they're doing that's working, what other cities are doing things that are smart, that are equivalent to Nashville? What cities should we be looking at?
Well, like it was just said, having dedicated lanes for the buses to run in, that is strictly for the buses, that is a pretty huge incentive. And of course, having the frequency, is a huge incentive. And the cost of transit or transportation, it's not going to get any cheaper.
No.
So I think we just have to spend smart now and plan for the growth down the road with our infrastructure, so that we're not revisiting the same issues year after year after year.
But what cities are getting it right? Are we looking at Austin? Are we looking at Denver, or Atlanta, or San Francisco? I don't know. What cities are doing it right?
I think that each of those cities are facing the issues that we are. and they're doing the best they can, just like we're trying to. Yes, they may be ahead of us, and I think that there are lessons to be learned from some of them. Houston just passed the referendum, for instance. Who else, Erin?
Indianapolis and Raleigh are two southern cities that just recently passed a referendum, and what was great about the Indianapolis referendum was it passed in November of 2016, and this summer their BRT line actually opened up, and the ridership has just been sort of off the charts. So, you know, great example of being able to pass a referendum and see pretty incredible progress really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound glib, but pretty much all of our peer cities are doing something better than us. So there's a lot of examples for us to look at. Lots in the South, from Atlanta to Indianapolis to Charlotte to Raleigh. Across the country, I think Denver and Minneapolis and Seattle are probably three of the cities that are making great strides. Austin is actually a southern city that has been struggling like we have. They
Very much so.
They have invested a little bit in their bus system, but their referendums have failed at the ballot, partly because their state legislature requires them to rely on property tax, and their property taxes are already really high, like 3 times what our property taxes are. And so that, I think that incremental increase asked to the residents is really hard. Same with us. We have to rely on sales tax. Our sales tax is already high, so that incremental ask is that much harder. But I think Austin and Nashville are really looking at each other to see who's going to figure it out first.
Clifton, you mentioned we're probably looking at 5 to 6 years from the failure of Let's Move Nashville until we have another vote, until we have another big plan that everybody votes on. That's a long time. And it's like, you know, progress is ticking by us. Growth is ticking up every day, every year.
But that doesn't mean there's not things, you know, that we can't do. Because, you know, there is, you know, improve the existing transportation system that we currently have, the bus system that we have. That also means, you know, from an operational perspective, we got to make sure, you know, that we go have the drivers that they need and that they're properly trained. So, and sidewalks, you know, we have an opportunity to put sidewalks in along our corridors and improve, you know, the space that we have, and look at the streets, you know, that are limited in space, and figure out, you know, what are the right traffic patterns. So there are things that we can do until we get back to a dedicated source of funding, because when we get a dedicated source of funding, it opens up opportunities, you know, to bring to fruition the infrastructure improvements that we want to do.
Let's get back to the phone lines. Olivia's on the line. Olivia, what's your comment or question? Thank you for being with us, by the way.
Hello, can you hear me?
I sure can. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question and I have a comment.
Sure.
Okay, one thing I want to say is all of the drivers from Excess Ride, I don't ride MTA buses anymore because I have a disability, but all of the drivers on the MTA vans are so polite to the riders. They're respectful. They're very helpful to every one of us. They're courteous. And I just want to commend them.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
And your drivers. Now, the downside I want to say, when I first started riding the MTA Excess Ride, I needed the van more than any other because of walking up steps and things. So, you know, they've got the lift. But when I called for them and asked for them, I didn't get them. It's not that I'm asking for a special privilege, but I wonder why they don't have more excess vans for people that need them and have a disability. I may not be in a wheelchair yet, but I do have a fall. I'm prone to fall, lose my balance and stuff like that. So then they started sending me cab drivers, and I'm gonna say this. I hate to say it on television. They frighten me. They drive really fast. Some of them are really rude with you. And I didn't understand, you know, about these cab drivers, but I did hear through the grapevine they were contracted. And I'm just wondering if they're not if they don't know our ways or how to drive our highways, then who is going to teach them how to drive safely when they have passengers in their car?
Okay, Olivia, thank you for calling in. We do appreciate it. And while none of you is with WeGo, this was a big issue, the access mobility rides for folks during the Let's Move Nashville campaign. A lot was promised. There would be better service, more frequent service, more response, because it has been lacking. And it has to be an issue going forward.
One additional comment that I'll make is that we're again, city, county, consolidated government, we have a huge area to serve. We're actually not federally required to serve the entire county, but WeGo has made it a priority to do so. Of course, again, we're sounding a little bit like broken records, but without dedicated funding, it is really hard to serve the whole county. One of the improvements that they're working on making, it was a big part of Let's Move Nashville, but they're trying to do it at a much smaller scale, is the Mobility on Demand program. So they are actually able to use software very similar to the software that Lyft and Uber is using, so that they can provide better same-day service to their customers. And a part of that, I think what Olivia was talking about, is being able to better match the resources that they have to the needs of their residents. But again, I think that those services won't improve until their funding improves.
Yeah, there's so much frustration.
But I would
on both
encourage
sides.
Olivia to contact WeGo and get a response to her concerns.
Okay, we have to take another quick break. We're going to come back with more phone calls right after this.